Bend has just been offered an opportunity it can't refuse, becoming the host city for a Canadian Football League team. Though Bend is located in the United States, the CFL has long been interested in expanding across the border. You see, this isn't the first time the CFL has ventured into the US. Back in 1993, the league added the Sacramento Gold Miners as its first US-based team. And within 2 years, they had 5 US-based teams as a part of the league. However, financial struggles and tensions over scheduling, rule changes, and marketing led to the CFL returning to an all-Canadian lineup by 1996. But this time they believe it'll be different, and that's because Bend will be the only US-based team, at least for now. And the city's in a unique position to make this work because it owns all this land. And because of that, they're planning on something ambitious, a transit-focused site, a showcase of cutting-edge green infrastructure, and a lively stadium district designed to thrive year-round, not just on game days. Because of that, the project includes relocating the city's bus hub to this central location, creating a community gathering space, and completing the trail network along the waterfront. To bring this vision to life, Bend has issued a request for proposals, or RFP, to developers. They're offering the land for free to a developer who can meet their requirements and commit to building the project within 2 years. The chosen developer will also be responsible for building key infrastructure, including the bus depot and the trails, with the city reimbursing those costs. James Jones thinks the timing couldn't be better for him. He's been looking for his next big project and loved working in the downtown area. But this time, he consults with his wife Jamila before submitting his proposal. But she hasn't forgotten how James drained their personal finances to build the Jamila Jones building. And because of that, she missed out on an incredible opportunity to invest in preferred stock at Clearwater Southern, missing out on what she believes was the opportunity of a lifetime. When James suggests pursuing the project, Jamila doesn't argue. She simply walks away. Days later, he's served divorce papers. With his life in turmoil, James can only watch in disbelief as Russ Kowalski, a developer whose home base is in Paradise Bay, wins the project. So in this episode, we'll build the Bend Stadium District. And to do this, we'll use assets from the Urban Architecture Content Creator Pack to create a stunning design and showcase what's possible with the new road and parking options from the recent patch. And if you're excited that Bend is getting a CFL team, hit the like button. If you think they should have gotten a different kind of football team instead, hit the like button for that too, and let me know what you think the name and mascot for this team should be down in the comments below. Or leave an emoji representing your favorite kind of football for the sake of engagement. But before we jump in, it's December, which means that the holidays are here, and so is the financial stress that comes with them. Thankfully, today's video sponsor, Rocket Money, can help. Rocket Money is an all-in-one personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. I'll admit that I didn't fully appreciate the value of setting a budget until I finally started doing it myself. You'd be surprised how much the cup of coffee that you grab on your way to work each day can add up. So let's do a little thought experiment. Say that coffee costs you $3.50 a day. That's $17.50 per week, and if you do it every single week of the year, that's $910 spent on coffee. If that sounds like a lot, it's because it is. Brewing at home could save you a ton, and seeing those numbers can really push you to make that change. This kind of clarity is exactly what Rocket Money provides. It helps you analyze your spending and set budgets, so you don't overspend in areas you'd rather cut back on. I used to figure this all out in a spreadsheet, but I'm thrilled I don't have to anymore. Rocket Money handles it all for me. And that's just the beginning. One of Rocket Money's standout features is its ability to help you cancel unwanted subscriptions. Once you connect your bank account, Rocket Money identifies all your subscriptions in a single list. From there, you can choose the ones you don't need anymore, and Rocket Money might even be able to help you cancel them with just a few taps. You know, like when you subscribe to that one streaming service just to watch your favorite football team play one game in Brazil and then forgot to cancel it? It's almost like they were counting on that happening. So take control of your finances today. Go to rocketmoney.com/cityplanner to get started for free. A huge thank you to Rocket Money for sponsoring the video. Now let's get back to it. Hello and welcome back to Magnolia County. We're going to kick things off today with a little bit of site preparation. So this will include a few things. I want to remove everything from the site. So that's the Jennings farmstead and all the trees. Then I want to adjust the district boundaries. I want to do a bit of grading and lay out some of the roads in this area, but not all of them. And that's because I want to make sure that we're adjusting the roads to the buildings and not the other way around. So let's begin by eliminating the Jennings farmstead. And now I'll adjust the district boundaries. And what I'm thinking I'm going to do is just take Sunrise Dale right back to this road right here. And then we'll take Fruitvale and adjust that to this entire area. So now we have the Bend Stadium District, and I want to do a little bit of grading here. And by a little bit, I mean we are going to grade every single thing on this site. And I'm going to go to an extent that will probably surprise some of you. But you have to think about what we're building here. We're going to be building density, and we're going to be building an expensive stadium. And as a result, I think going extreme on the grading is fine. So I'm basically going to take this height right here and push the soil all the way over to Riverbend Boulevard. then we'll grade up to the site. This will give us a nice flat pad to work with, and I think make everything here look a lot nicer. And there we go. So now we can lay out the rest of our roadway network through this area. But before I do that, I just kind of want to explain where the development is going to occur. We're going to have our stadium right here. We'll have a mixed use center right here and a hotel north of that. Next to that, we'll have our large park, our village green, if you will. And then below that, we're going to have our bus station, our bus transfer center. And then we'll round out this site by having a little mixed use center right about here. So I want to draw a road that's going to basically flank the southern end of the site, and I want this to be completely straight. Now, one thing I'm noticing about this location is I've got a ton of guidelines, which is going to be a real problem for me. So I'm going to be disabling these back and forth, and that's because I want this to be perfectly straight. And then right here, I want to have a perfect 90 coming into Riverbend Boulevard, considering that it is a major arterial. And that's as far as I want to go with our roads. The main reason for this is we are going to be conforming the rest of our roads to the buildings. Now you might have noticed I did do a little bit of work over here. This is a separate project, but I feel it's really important that we extend this road all the way through and make it feel like this is a cohesive area, not two separate areas developed at two separate times. But with our roads in place, let's move on to building our stadium district. We're going to be building our site from the left-hand side towards the stadium. And the main reason for that is we don't know where the stadium's going to go, and honestly, it doesn't matter. It's going to conform to whatever we build before it. But Cedar Street right here is a constant. It's already here, so we're going to work around it. So for the first two buildings in the first third of the site, I think we'll have a rectangular building right here and a triangular building just above that. For the rectangular building, I want to have a parking structure in the center and hide all of the parking for the stadium. There's two reasons for this. Number one, if you drive here, I want you to feel the pain of driving here. I want it to be a long trip, and I want you to have to walk past all the restaurants, bars, and the transit center to know that transit was the right way to get here. The other reason for this is I don't want this ugly parking structure to be the most prominent feature on the site. Let's grab this parking structure, and I know I just got done talking smack about this thing, but I actually love this asset. I've always wanted this asset in City Skylines, and I'm so happy that we finally have it so that I can hide it. So next, I want to grab a couple of urban promenades buildings to wrap around this. But I noticed one thing, our grid is broken, and I've got to fix that before we start plopping buildings. So for this, I'm going to turn off Snap to Guidelines, turn on our grid, and try to fix the grid right here. First time didn't work, but oftentimes the second time will be the charm. And there we go. Perfect grid. I can get rid of one side now and start plopping the buildings down. So for this, we'll go into Find It, and I want to narrow down to a very specific set of buildings. So we'll click on Buildings and we'll click on Mixed Use. Then I will enable the Toggle Filters panel, and I want to narrow this down to Urban Promenades. Now you can see that we've got all the Urban Promenades assets showing up here. Now I've already done a little bit of research and I know exactly what I'm looking for. So the first asset is going to be a 4x4 right-hand corner. So I've said 4x4. Now I need to pick my building level because building level corresponds to height with many assets. And I know that level 5 is exactly what I'm looking for, the tallest variant of this asset. And then we click on the right corner, and there is that asset that I'm looking for. So I know that this is the left-hand side, but if I go this way, now it's facing in the correct direction. And I could place two of these. And you know what? I got the width of this just right because the next piece that I want is going to fit right here. This is going to be a middle piece, and I want the width to be 3. Perfect. Now, coincidentally, I want to place this building 4 more times. And now, before we get to our end piece, I want to figure out how we make this asset work. So for that, I want to use an alleyway, and we're going to run this straight back here and then through all these buildings. And I know that you might not like this, but it's all going to be hidden, so we're not going to worry about it all that much. Now I'm going to use Move It and try to slide this thing into place to see if this road is in the correct location. Because this is really where I want the structure, and you can tell that it is not currently in the right location. So rather than attempting to redraw this whole thing, I'll just use the Replace tool to shift this thing down a bit. And there we go. Now it is happy. So now we just need to figure out the correct pieces for the rest of this building. And the reason why this is going to be slightly different than the other side is if I were to use this piece, the right-hand corner, it's too big. And I don't want to clip buildings together if I can avoid it. So rather than leaving this right here with the gap, we're going to go with a slightly narrower corner piece. And I think that this 3x3 corner is going to be what we're looking for. So I'm going to place this right here. And this is perfect for a couple of reasons. First of all, this is going to be really tight on the building once we use Move It. Second of all, do you see what this building has? It has an opening. And the opening's not perfect, but we can make it look a little bit believable. So I'm going to use Move It to place this nice and tight right here. And then I'm going to use that Replace tool to slide this road over so that the opening is basically centered on that road. Or at least the entryway is good enough. That makes me happy. I wonder if I use the one-way alley, if it's possible for me to have an exit, because there's an exit right here. I think we can make this happen. Oh, that is going to work beautifully. So you drive into this little door-like opening right here. You drive out of that little door-like opening over here, and you're good to go. The parking lot is happy. I am happy. Everything is working out all right. So now let's finish up this edge right here. And there's nothing that's 2 units wide by 3 units. So I'm going to go with a couple of 2 unit deep pieces and see if I can fit a couple of these in, maybe a 2 and a 3. That'll do the trick. And it gives us a little bit more variety as well. And it really encloses this place nicely. Now, I wonder if we can go up another level. We can. And honestly, I think that that looks pretty good. Now, if this were the real world, I would probably ask for some sort of parapet to hide this. But reasonably, I think it's fine. I think this is going to be just fine. Now, the nice thing is this has also given us one more road in this site and really defined and framed up this building location as well. So for this one, I'm going to be far less picky. And what I want to do is use, again, this corner piece. We're going to use this a couple of times. And now I just want to find whatever pieces are going to allow me to fill the gaps very nicely. So I'm thinking that this 3x2 is probably a good place to start. And then I'll snag that 2x2 over there because we can use that to finish up that corner. Same thing right here. Actually, that looks like a 3x2 will fit perfectly. And then I'm overlapping these, not because I want them to overlap, but because I want them to be perfectly straight. And I think that this looks pretty darn good. We've done a little bit of clipping, but it's not too extreme. And we can always shuffle buildings a little bit forward or backwards if we want it to look absolutely perfect. Now, the way that I want to fix some of the issues that we're having with roads not connected, because I'm never okay with that, is we are going to shift these buildings apart from one another. And I think we'll use one of the new wider roads through here and maybe get some more landscaping back here as a result. And there we go. Had to do a little bit more playing to get this to line up nicely, but look at that. Absolutely wonderful. So let's get this upgraded with one of our new roads. And I think we'll use some of our angled parking through here. And then I don't want there to be this much parking. I think we have an opportunity to narrow things up and give some cafe style seating. So we'll do something like this, and that is wonderful. That said, I think I want to have a bit more of this angular parking. So I might flank this entire site with it. And then we'll have cafe seating all the way around here. And then we've got to straighten out these roads. So once again, I'll use the Replace tool just to slide things around. And there we go. Rather than continuing to torture myself with the old right-of-way, I decided to redo it just a little bit. Keeps the spirit of what we had before, but it conforms to this building, and now we're not getting a whole bunch of errors, so I like that a ton more. So now that we've moved this, I feel like we've got to do something to right this road because I don't want this jog here, at least not in a brand new development. So I'm going to continue this same road down here, but not because I want a ridiculous amount of parking, but rather because I think that we could have a wide road right there, reserve some right of way, and then have some trees on the side of the road, which will look really nice. Okay, next up, I want to place our transit facility, and that's going to go right about here. So this is going to be one of our small bus stations, and I want to deck this thing out. So we're going to place all of our expansions, so taxis, the extra bus bay, and then all of our surrounding support facilities as well. You know, and we've gone with these wide roads. I wonder if we shouldn't just continue this pattern all the way around here. Yeah, I like that. I think that that is a good call. Now, right here, I'm going to change things up a little bit. We've got this wide road. I don't want that. I am going to give a bit of a park and ride to this area, but that's not where I want to do it. Instead, I'll add a parking lot behind it. And the more I look at this, the more I think that we should have a pedestrian facility right here and start to pedestrianize everything in this area, because this is supposed to be our big community gathering space. So now we've got our parking. This is going to be our mini park and ride, and I'm going to slide this over. My goal is to have two of our pocket parks kind of flanking this park and ride. So our pocket parks are wonderful. These are these wide little pocket parks. And actually up here, I think I'll go with a different one. So I'll get rid of that pocket park and we'll go with two small ones so that we have a walking area right here.
Oh, here we go again.
It's been 84 years.
And oh my goodness, you know that whole don't let perfect be the enemy of good thing that I'm always talking about? Just did it, just went crazy, redid this 1,000 times. Totally unnecessary. It looks about the same as the first time. But you know what? I guess I'm happier, so maybe that's good enough. So for this one, I'm gonna just center it right here as well. And I decided to leave these little edges right here for maybe a more substantial tree or something of that nature. Looking pretty good in my mind. Now on this end, we're gonna have a community park of some sort. And I wanna go for a big one. And it's likely gonna be this large city park. And I just like the way that that fits in this little area right here. So now I'm gonna add another pedestrian facility, and this will go around the park. We'll expand the surfaces and make a couple of connections eventually as well. And now I wanna use another new asset. We've got this new small pedestrian street. And this is gonna be an important facility for a variety of reasons. I want this facility to basically wrap all the way around our stadium. I'm gonna be using this for most of our key walls through here, of which there will be many. But I'm gonna temporarily place this here. And actually, we'll make it less temporary. I'm gonna redraw this, but I want to have constant slope on so that we have a nice grade down to this road, because you can see there's a lot of slope. And honestly, this makes me want to redraw this road with constant slope as well. Oh, look at that. Who needs grading? No one needs grading. You just need anarchy and a little bit of constant slope. That is looking outstanding. There are two more buildings I want to build before we place our stadium. Right here, I want to have a fairly generic looking rectangular mixed use building. And then right here, I want to have a hotel. So this is where all the players would stay before a game, or any fans that are visiting as well. So for this rectangular building, I want it to kind of mirror some of the themes that we have over here, but I'm going to use a level 4 building so that it's a bit more rectangular. So we'll go with our 3x3 corners again. And I feel like these are just a little bit sharper, and it gives a slightly different aesthetic, which I think we kind of need. We've been repeating the same buildings all over the place. And there we go. And now I'm not going to fully commit to this being the final location of this road because you can already see we have a bit of a framing for our stadium. And I want whatever road wraps around the stadium to feel like it's tightly hugging that. So we might shift this over just a little bit. But one thing that I like that just happened right here is we ended up making this a 6-unit deep lot. So that basically forces us to find a hotel that's 5 or 6 units deep if we want it to feel like it's filling this all up. So with that in mind, I'm going to look for a 6x6 commercial building. And honestly, I think that this one right here isn't necessarily the worst look for us. The only thing I don't love is we have a blank wall right there. Now we're going to switch it up for this one right here. If it weren't a 4-sided structure, I wouldn't care, but you're going to be able to see all the way around this. So I think it's pretty important. And now I want to place a couple of pocket parks on the outside of this, and we're going to recolor all the building colors. So if you're thinking this looks like a jumbled mess, don't worry about that. So next, we'll grab some of these long pocket parks. And I just want to center these nicely like this. And we'll leave enough space for landscaping on the outside. And then use our area bucket to recolor the surfaces so that they match. Perfect. And don't mind the fire. It's going to be all right. We'll just not look at it. So now we're ready to place our football stadium. And now you can kind of see why I said it didn't matter about the stadium itself. It's taking up basically the rest of the site. And I'm going to try to center this as best I can. I actually don't think I'm going to be able to at all. So with that in mind, I'll just try to get it to conform with this pedestrian road right here. And then I'm just going to run this all the way around it so that we can use this as a key wall. And now that we have the general layout in place, I can key this. So using the new version of Anarchy, or I guess it's not new anymore, I will upgrade one side to a key. And I just so happen to get the right side to start out with. And I'm going to pull that all the way around here because we have quite a bit of elevation change. And then on the other side, rather than having the key, I'm going to switch this up to a retaining wall. The last thing I want to do over here is recolor some of the buildings. So for that, I just want to find a building color, a singular color that I like for each of these. And I think for this building, I kind of like the lighter colors. So I'm just going to snag this one and then paste it all the way around. And then over here, I might go with something a little bit more reddish. Although, you know what? I think I just like the lighter colors over here. Now, I inadvertently did something very strange. You can see that the parking structure is now red on top, pinkish. I don't know how to fix that. I tried to recolor all of these, and even when I reset the colors, that is now the color. So I'm going to try to replace this. You know, and after placing this parking garage in here, I think I know the issue. I was recoloring the main building, but not the extension. So I'll add those back in and pretend like I never made that terrible, terrible, terrible mistake. And now I'll step away from the parking structure. And for this last building over here, I think I'm just going to mirror the same light, bright colors. I just think it looks nice, sleek, and modern. And there we go. Fairly boring, but you know what? I like the way that this looks. I think it looks really, really, really sleek. And with that, the bones of our stadium district are in place. So let's move on to building our transition area. For the transition area in between our stadium district and these single family homes, I feel like ownership is everything. If a developer owned these sites right here, I have a feeling that they would go for more of the same, but maybe with a little bit less height. But because the city owns this, we can ask for a counterbalance to this area and ask for some low rent housing and some city services. Now, to sweeten the deal, I think that we'll also place one taller building right here, something that would get the developer interested in building on this site at all. So we're going to be placing one signature building, our UK city apartments, and I'm going to place those right about here. And then across the street, we'll have an elementary school and a bunch of our French low-income apartments. So I'll place this first, And this doesn't fit on this site perfectly, but we're just going to kind of make it work. So I'll get this as close to our path as we can, and then we'll build up the area around this. And there we go. So that is situated in place. Our path is reconnected, looking good. Now for this site, we've got to do a bit of grading before we can build anything here. And I kind of want to build all of our building pads up front because we're going to be utilizing this road up here, Linden Street, and Riverbend for this entire site. So I'm going to create a number of pads here because I have an idea of where all these buildings should be situated. So this one right here, for instance, will be our elementary school. Down here, we'll have some narrower low-rent apartments. And then up here, we'll have some larger low-rent apartments. Now, these pads aren't perfect, but we'll make them better as we grow and plop things. So let's begin by placing our elementary school. And for this one, we've got to use the Urban Elementary School that came with the Urban Promenades Content Creator Pack. It's such a unique and I think uniquely beautiful asset. I love this not just because it has a whole bunch of elementary school capacity, which it does. This is 1,200 elementary school capacity. Then we can add 500 more on the back end. And then we get this beautiful urban playground. Just look at this. It says way up high. I just love that. Such a pretty asset. So we're going to need to build retaining walls around almost all of this, some sort of a rock feature to keep this in place, but I'm not going to worry about it just yet. We're going to use Move It to position things perfectly, and then I'm going to try to grow in buildings naturally and then shift them around as I need to. So I think in this area, I want to have some of the H-shaped apartments. I believe those are 4x6s, maybe 4x5s, and then I'm just going to slide this over. And then we'll Control H this one into place. And I want one more large building over here. And this one, I want to go for the biggest one we can get. This will be a 6x6. Perfect. And then lastly, I want to have a couple of the L-shaped apartments right here. And I'm going to try to combine them into one cohesive structure. And these are 3x5s. I'm going to drag this around to get 3 of them. And this is all looking pretty good, but I think we could take it to the next level. So with these L-shaped buildings, I really want to line up the corners right here. And then I want to pay close attention to the heights. This one's too low. I'm going to bump it up. And then I'll do the exact same thing with this lower level asset and hopefully get something that feels like it is conforming to the road right here. There we go. I had to change the time of day so we could see this just a little bit better. And I feel like this makes more sense. It feels like this has actually been built for this site, not that it's just some prefab apartment that's been placed right here. It feels a lot better to me. So now to make this completely work, we are going to need to build retaining walls and maybe even shift some of these buildings over a little bit more. You can see that the elementary school is doing some not so nice things. So I think I'm going to grab all of these, move them over slightly, which helps out the elementary school. Then I'll move this up the hill. That helps the apartment. And then just looking at these, I think that these are mostly okay. I'm just going to rotate things around a little bit just for some visual interest. And you know, something more important than visual interest is site circulation. And I would love to have some sort of a path throughout this area if possible. I don't know that it is because of the slopes, but you better believe that we're going to try to at least have something. I think one cutting through right here might be possible, and we absolutely have to have something coming from down here up to here. This would be very challenging to have as a ramp, but I could see it being steps. You're going to have to imagine with me. We're going to have to pretend that it's steps because we don't have those access to those at this point in time. And there we go. So not 100% ideal, but it's better to have this there than nothing at all. Now I'm going to add the rest of the retaining walls. And for these, rather than having a formal retaining wall like this, I'm going to use rocks. And there we go. Added in a bit of vegetation as well to make it look a little bit more natural. And I feel like this area is looking really, really good. And with our transition area complete, let's move on to building our Riverside Path Network. Now we're going to take on a fun project that I think would have tormented the planners of Bend for a long time. And that is, I want to take this trail that kind of just ends over in North Fork and connect it over to the trail that we just completed over here in the Stadium District. So this is going to be a long trail. And the reason why this would be challenging is you can't really tie this to much of a project. So if you don't have anything to tie this to, it means you have to have dedicated funding for the trail, which is sometimes hard to come by. So I want to first, before we add this trail, make sure that the trail that we're connecting into makes sense, because I don't think that it does. If we look at our contour lines, this goes up and down and up and down, and that means that it's not very accessible. So I kind of want to go back to the drawing board and redo this all the way back to here, because now we have the ability to have a constant slope, and that makes a huge difference. It means that this trail will be ADA accessible. It means that someone in a wheelchair would be able to traverse this without any problems, as long as we do it right. So I'm gonna just have a couple of snap twos on. Snap to existing geometry and snap to the 90-degree angle. That's just for this first bit, and we'll use our continuous curve for all of this. So I'm just gonna snap right here, and now I can turn off 90 degrees, and we'll just follow our tree line. And you can tell that that is so much better. The contour lines are so much further apart on our trail. That means that this is a relatively flat trail, which is what we're looking for. I'm going to do the exact same thing right here to see if I can fix this, and then we'll move on to building the new portions of our trail. And you know, that's not perfect, but it is considerably better. Now, for the rest of this, I want to try to get the trail down to the water as best I can. I don't want it to be completely on the water. That'll even make it difficult for us to actually add landscaping afterwards. But I do want it to feel like you could be close to the water. You can go sit on the water if you want to. Okay, and I'm fairly pleased with this, but I think that there are a few things that we could improve. First of all, this road is just too wide. It's kind of comically wide. At this point, rather than having this wide sidewalk, I think I will just convert this to be a normal 2-lane road. I thought about reserving that right of way. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. And then because I don't want people parking here, I'll add trees. And then that makes this connection feel a little bit better. I'm probably going to extend that up another block. And then I'll use a custom road right here with a median. And once we add our buses through here, we'll need to think about that median. I'm not sure that we can keep that. The buses aren't going to come today, though. That'll likely be in the next episode. But there we go. Now that makes a ton more sense to me. And I like the way it wraps all the way around here. Now, another thing I was noticing is that I inadvertently added a bunch of alleyways back here, one-way alleyways. I meant to add pedestrian facilities. So I'm going to use this small pedestrian street and just replace these quickly. And there we go. That is a totally different vibe. And you know what? I think that this path network, you know, I don't know that it would be the most heavily utilized thing, but you're seeing that there are some people on here already. And I could see this being very popular for recreation, not necessarily for utilitarian purposes, but not every trail needs to be utilitarian. And this one, even though it's not meant to be, it appears that it is. There are people walking all the way over here, so it was clearly a missing connection. And with our trail network complete, let's move on to a bit of landscaping and detailing. For our landscaping and detailing today, I want to pay close attention to each and every property. We're going to modify all surfaces and try to make sure that every property feels well landscaped. After all, we don't have all that many, and this is a special place, so we want to give it special attention. In addition, I'm going to try to add a rock wall along the entirety of the waterfront, so my fingers are going to hurt by the end of this. I also want to do something here with this cul-de-sac and maybe even clean up the lights. So that'll be an area that I focus on at the very end and try to make this a special place. And there we go. That was a ton of riprap, but honestly, I think that this place looks absolutely outstanding now. And when you have a special place, I really think that you need to include enough detail to make the place feel special. I do want to point out a couple of things that I did though. So obviously around here, I tried to add landscaping around every single building, try to add riprap all the way through. But then along here, I decided to reforest a bit. So I've added a bunch of baby trees, and eventually those trees will form a boundary in between this path and the highway, which I think is going to be really desirable. And then I decided to wrap this riprap wall all the way down along this path, considering we actually redid the path today. So at that point, we might as well do a little bit of extra detailing now that our skills have leveled up a bit. And with all of that done, there's only one more thing left to do. That's take inventory of what we've done with a brief city tour. I feel like this view really demonstrates what we've done today. We've eliminated a major barrier in the community because I feel like the river has been a major barrier for high density development on the east side of the river. Sure, we've got the university over there, but for Bend itself, we've only had low density development over here, and now we have this little node of activity. Now, I know that there's more work that we have to do here. We still haven't really brought transit to this site. We will do that in the next one, but I feel like it's important that we give that the amount of attention and time that it deserves. We just couldn't do that today. Now, before we wrap things up, I want to point out a couple of changes that were made on stream because they're kind of substantial. So I've gone through because of the 1.2 patch to city skylines, and we've replaced all the city service buildings, or at least replaced the buildings that didn't have extensions. Any buildings that have extensions, you can just delete an extension and replace it, and then all the city service buildings, or the city service vehicles rather, will show up. But for any that didn't like this one, we had to delete the building and replace it. So if you notice during the landscaping that the amount of money that we have dropped substantially, that's why we replaced a number of these buildings. We've also taken this building right here, this bus depot, and we've dramatically revised it. So this used to have a ton of sub buildings around it. It looked kind of outrageous. We've taken this and now eliminated most of the sub buildings and added 2 more of these bus barns. We actually added one where there used to be one way over here in the industrial park, just added this right back. And the nice thing about this is now with these new bus barns, you can see the buses as they're parked. So you know if you have excess capacity. So we know now if we want to add extra routes, we have capacity to do so. So that is why we've gone ahead and done this. But we've done this at every corner of the build, so there are places like this building where we now can see that it is the new version of the asset because it has service parking. Even though it's empty, that means that all of the vehicles are deployed. Every single police station, every single part maintenance depot, every single bus depot, every single hospital, every single clinic, we've gone ahead and replaced them all in kind. There's only one place where we made substantial changes, and I want to point those out. Right here in Paradise Bay, where rather than just swapping the assets out one for one, we decided to experiment a little bit and place some of the new assets from the content creator packs and region packs. So we've got the new police station, fire station, clinic, and even one of our Japan post offices. And honestly, I really like the way that these look in this part of the build. The other substantial change that we made was right here. This is at our shopping center here in Paradise Bay. We attempted to replace the parking lots that we made with parking lot roads with the vanilla parking lot roads. And honestly, I think it turned out a lot better. It looks a lot more natural and kind of what I would expect to see in a shopping center like this one. So I like the change. And there are lots of other small things throughout the build where people kind of shouted out some issues with the build. Like right here, there was a crosswalk around a corner, not the safest place for it. We left the path there, we removed the crosswalk, and if you want to get across the street, you need to find a better spot than at this corner. So there are lots of little things like that, lots of smoothing, and other things that I think really improve the look and functionality of the build. With maybe the most significant thing being right here at Clearwater Southern, where we cleaned up some of the track work and then added one of our river surfaces to try to make this look a little bit more natural. But after all that building, I think it's time to leave it here. And I really hope that you've enjoyed this one. If you did, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And I want to thank you so much for your time today. There's a million things you could have been doing. You decided to hang out with me and play some City Skylines too, and I appreciate that. One last request. If you have a name and a mascot for our new Canadian Football League team, let me know down in the comments below, and we'll select it soon. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.